Before we get started into some of these things, I will be demonstrating Turnitin in Canvas for you today. And so I will be going in through and touching some things in there. So if you want to, you're welcome to follow along if you're able to. So you can go ahead and get some things out of the way is to log into Canvas right now by going to my favorite way to getting there is lms.tamu.edu. On the top right-hand corner, clicking that login button and then logging in with your TAMU NET ID and password. So as you're doing that, you're logging in, going in through Duo. I'm going to go and navigate as well to lms.tamu.edu. Here is my browser. So we go to lms.tamu.edu. On this website, on the top right-hand side, that's that area for logging in. A few things I wanted to show you on this website just really quickly is our getting ready for spring page. If you haven't already gotten ready through some of the things that we have for the spring semester, here they are, as well as our tools section. This is starting to get into our tools in Canvas. So like Turnitin and some of the other ones that we have available, you can see all the different tools that we have integrated into Canvas as of right now. And then our training and support page is going to be that page where we have our training. You've already been through here since you are here in this training session, but also some other training. We try to update this on a weekly basis. So come back every Monday or Friday afternoon to see what training we have for the next upcoming week in session, as well as our themes. We try to keep each week on a theme basis. So using third-party tools in Canvas is this week's theme. If you wanted to watch a recording of this session or any of the other training sessions that we have, all of our training is offered and archived throughout these areas. So our Canvas training will be here, as well as our YouTube channel that I'm going to talk about towards the end of today's session. But that is the gist of the LMS website that I want to go through just while you're here. And let's go ahead and get started with our training right here. So our training outcomes, you as a participant today, by the end of this session, participants will be able to create a Turnitin assignment in Canvas. You'll also be able to identify how to access and interpret that Turnitin similarity report, and also assign feedback and grades for Turnitin assignments. As I mentioned before, it is a little different than what we're used to in eCampus, and I'm going to highlight those differences in just a moment, but just keeping that in mind as it is a different tool. Overview, we are going to talk about how to create those Turnitin assignments in Canvas. And let's get started with how to do this. At the end of today's session, I will send everyone a PDF of this training that you can refer to as a reference point. And we're also going to have a recording of this too made available on our website and our YouTube channel that you can refer to as well. But let's go ahead and jump straight into Canvas. I already logged into my Canvas course, to my Canvas area, so I'm going to go into my Canvas course itself. And in this Canvas course, I am going to go into my modules section. Our best practice is for you to build all of your assignments throughout a module, even if the module is just going to be, so you can either do it by weekly structure. I have mine already in a Turnitin module from a previous assignment I already have. But what I'm going to do is create that assignment first. To create that assignment, if I can spotlight, okay. To create that assignment, what I'm going to be able to do is up here on the top right-hand side on my module, I'm going to click that plus button. By default, I have assignment already, but if not, I can go to this drop down and select assignment, click on new assignment and give this a title. So for my case, if I okay, this is my research paper final, and I'm going to go ahead and add item. As I do that, it gets added to this module. I can click on the name of it to access it. So right there, I'm going to click on this to access it, and then click on edit on the top right. What I just did right now is I'm adding an assignment, just a blank assignment to a module. And then after I do that, I'm going to modify it so that I can make sure I set up the correct settings for my Turnitin assignment. From here, what I could do is if I had any existing instructions from a previous course or had already have my instructions made, I can input them here. With eCampus, we're used to adding the instructions to the Turnitin assignment. Now you're going to be using Canvas as your face for any Turnitin assignments. In eCampus, you used it in the forefront, like you went and created the Turnitin assignment. Here, you're using the Canvas assignment tool, but Turnitin is going to be working in the background for you. So after you add those assignment instructions, if I had them already, once you start adding those assignment instructions, you can scroll down a little bit, modify some of those assignment settings, such as the points possible, what assignment group. And then the next very important thing to be able to get the option to create a Turnitin assignment is under the submission type area. So right here in the middle of my screen. If I go to no submission, which is my default, if I select online, it's very important to select online and not the external tool. Select online for your submission type and only select file uploads. If you select text entry for any Turnitin assignments, it's not going to check the similarity of those text entries for any subsequent submissions. It only checks the first one. Our recommendation is to use the file uploads, as each one of those file uploads, if a student decides to resubmit a paper, gets checked. So that's just a tip for you today, that if you can leave with anything, it's only select file uploads for your submission type. So you're going to select online, file uploads. And if you see, as soon as I click this, I get this option down here. So if I uncheck it, I don't have it. If I check it, I do have it. This plagiarism review option. So that's going to be the Turnitin when you're turning on this Turnitin option. If I go ahead and select this drop down, I select Turnitin. And then that's how I have Turnitin working for me in the background. So from here, there's a few settings I can select. They're not as in-depth as the settings as you may be used to with eCampus, but some of the most popular and common ones are going to be here within Canvas. So for example, I can choose whether or not I want to store these papers in a repository or not. If this is a draft paper, you probably don't want to submit the papers to a repository. But if this is the final paper, you want those submitted to a repository. Reason being is if you have a draft and then you have a final paper, the students are technically going to be counting as plagiarizing themselves if you have both of them stored in the repository, because for most oftentimes, the draft is going to be very similar to the final paper and vice versa. So just keeping that in mind, if it's a draft paper or anything like that, you don't want those stored, but the final ones is anything you do. You can then select the boxes for what submission types you want this to check for, the student repository, so all student papers, website content, and then periodicals, journals, and publications. This is stuff like EBSCOhost, any type of journals that you're used to for your like through the library, any of those are there. These next four options can be changed at any point in time throughout the paper submission time. So you don't have to worry about them right now if you don't know if these will apply to you. But for example, the exclude bibliographic materials, if you have a research paper, you probably are going to want to exclude this from your similarity report. Example being that, let's say you get a similarity report of 30-40%, and it's because the student has a works cited. More than likely, those works cited is going to be what's going to be flagging them as similar, because it's other people have the same works cited sources. Maybe other people at other universities have used them, so it's going to start flagging those as similar, but it's not truly similar. It's just that other people have also works cited those. If you don't have a works cited page, then you don't want to check that. But this will help you out without an accurate report for the similarity. Same thing for quoted materials. If you're allowing your students to use quotes in your papers, like direct quotes, then you can exclude those from the similarity report. But if you're not allowing them to, you want it included so that they can get flagged and you're notified of those as well. Same thing with small sources. If you don't believe that there's a source out there that's only a percentage of 2% match, you don't think that's really considered similar, you can set that here, but you can also set that per paper as you are moving forward. So you don't have to set that as well. And then the next one is going to be that grammar checker. There is a different grammar check that you can utilize, advanced, high school, middle school, elementary English learners. For the most part, for college students, especially those core courses, you're probably going to want to use a high school handbook. For graduate students, you'd probably use those advanced because it's more of, they already have that baccalaureate degree for the handbook. And then you can select the dictionary and then what you want to be searching for. This isn't going to grade the students on those. What it's going to do is just highlight those things so that both you and the student can see them. You can then choose for this to be saved as your default setting so that every other time after that that you create a Turnitin assignment, this will get added there automatically. Next is the option for showing the report to students. You have 4 options right here for showing the report. That's that similarity report. You could choose for immediately. That means as soon as that student turns it in, maybe 2-3 minutes afterwards, they can start seeing that report generated for them. And then you choose and allow the student to resubmit if they wanted to. This is one of the best cases of using Turnitin, as it will help the student understand where they may have some needs of improvement for their citing of sources. So if they needed to improve one citation because they didn't cite it correctly, or they missed a way that they did something, that will get all shown to them into that report. Same thing with the grammar. If you have that check, they can then make those changes in that paper and then resubmit. If not, you could choose the after assignment is graded. That means that after the assignment is graded, well, before the assignment is graded, only you as the instructor and anyone in an instructor capacity could see those reports. Before that, the students won't be able to see that. After the due date, that means after the due date that you have set down here in Canvas, but before it is graded, you want them to see those reports. And then never, if you never want them to be able to see that report. Our best practice and #1 suggested way to do this is immediately, so that students can kind of see how they're doing in their papers, especially if this is a writing intensive course, or this is a course that really works on the consecutive feedback mechanism of a paper with a draft or a paper with multiple drafts or multiple sections. So that iterative assessment that you may need to get with some papers. Other than that, there's other options that you weren't able to do in Canvas with Turnitin that you couldn't do in eCampus. For example, you could do group assignments, as this is using Canvas's groups as the forefront. So you would then be able to use Turnitin for a group assignment. So group paper, group proposal, whatever that is, you can then add this for your groups. We have other trainings on how to use groups in Canvas, but that's just something you can do. Same thing for peer reviews. You can also do peer reviews on a Turnitin assignment as well. The students won't be able to see the Turnitin part of it, but you'll be able to see the Turnitin part of it and the background, so that if in case you do have any suspicion that students are using peer reviews as a way of gathering any information from other papers and kind of putting it in their own, you'd be able to see that in the subsequent uses of the Turnitin for the peer reviews. So that's another option you can do. We have another training session on peer reviews in Canvas as well coming soon. So I'm not going to put those for these. Next, you would use the regular Turnitin settings for the due dates and availability as you needed to do, and then you can save or save and publish. I'm going to go ahead and save and publish for my case, but you can do whatever it is that was necessary for your individual situation. After I've done all this, I'd be able to start going through and kind of getting my submissions for my students. We're used to seeing Turnitin submissions in eCampus from the course tools area, but in Canvas, what I'm going to do is I already have a paper over here, my research paper draft that I had my students already start turning in. So I'm going to go ahead and go into this so that I can show you what it looks like when you start receiving those submissions. So with any Canvas assignment, if you wanted to see any of those submissions, you'd see them from the right-hand side where you can download those submissions. You can see how many submissions are graded, and then I can access that speed graders to start viewing my student submissions. From here, as this is loading, what this is going to do is I'm going to choose to go, so I can go to all of my students' different papers, and I can resubmit some of these that didn't automatically. There it is. It's going to take a moment or two. And as I'm going through, because my students were resubmitting some of these assignments as earlier, so if they do a resubmission, you will need to resubmit to Turnitin. But you're going to be using the Canvas speed grader tool down here. So here you'll be using this tool to do any of your annotations or any of those themselves. So for example, I'd be able to download this paper, use any of the speed grader options down here. So if I go, trying to see, so what I would be able to see is my submission is still pending from Turnitin, as it's still taking some time. I had them do that a little while ago, but I would be able to go through here and then start evaluating those the reports. So if we go back into our PowerPoint, another important key thing to note is within Canvas, since we're using the Canvas assignment tool as the forefront and Turnitin is just the background tool, please use the rubrics tool embedded into Canvas and not the Turnitin rubrics in Canvas. Reason being is the Turnitin rubrics in Canvas do not communicate, the Turnitin rubrics do not communicate back to Canvas. So if you put any grades or any feedback in there, students won't be able to easily access, and it doesn't communicate back into the Canvas gradebook since you already have the Canvas gradebook using the assignment tool. So any grades, any feedback, any rubrics should be done from the speed grader tool itself. So as this takes its time to load, so you'd use the rubrics tool itself. You would attach if I go back into my course, you would attach a rubric. So really quickly, we have more on rubrics themselves, but if you scroll down the assignment, you would click plus rubric and add that rubric to your assignment. Originality reports on my screen here, since mine is still loading to evaluate those originality reports, I would see that originality report show up for my speed grader on the right hand side. It would show me that report that I can then access and then view. I will also see it in my gradebook with a flag. That flag is going to be the same flag I'd see there. I would then still use the speed grader tool to do that feedback and review anything and give that grade for my student. Interpreting Turnitin reports, this is going to be very case-by-case basis on the types of papers that are going through, the types of assignments that you have in yours. But for the most part, you'll see a match overview score. This does not mean necessarily that the student plagiarized. What it means is that the student's paper has been found similar to other papers or resources out there. What this means is that if it will find the words in the student's paper and then cross-list it with other sources in the periodicals and the internet, other papers from other universities, and it will let you know what it is that it found and what it is that you can consider for making your evaluation whether or not this is considered plagiarism. You would then have the chance to go into each individual paper, make that decision on yourself, discern that, to then decide how to move forward whether or not it's plagiarism. For the most part, if a paper has a lot of, one course, for example, has a lot of the same topics or same conversations happening in those papers, you may have a higher similarity score as it's going to be very similar, such as with lab reports or anything with those sciences that have facts based in them. Those are going to be more of those higher matches. Anything that's going to be more of an original thought piece, like a reflection, may have a lower similarity report, since that's going to be more an individual type of conversation that's going on with the student in their paper and their flow of language. In addition to this, you also see the ability to, so you'd see the matches, you'd see all the different sources, you can see the full text as well to kind of compare it side by side with your student's text to discern whether or not it was a match. But for the most part, that percentage is going to be based on the word count. So the word count of the paper will indicate how much of a match overview it is. So if you have, for example, in this paper that I have here on screen, 343, that means 22% of the 330 343 words that were found in my paper were found to be similar with other resources or sources. Sometimes this means that they can overlap. Sometimes they mean that they can be separate of each other. It really depends on the sources and what happens here. I would then be able to check whether or not if my student properly cited that source or if it was a direct quote or whatever that looks like so that I can help them with their papers too. Let's go back and see if the paper was able to get loaded just really quickly. No, it is still taking a little bit of time to do that, and that is fine. You would be able to grade the assignment as you would any other speed grader tool is in here. You would go ahead and enter in that assessment, that grade for this assessment, and then submit the same way you would any other assignment, as Turnitin is only working in the background. Turnitin best practices, our recommendations from our office is to familiarize yourself with TAMU's and your department's policy on plagiarism and academic dishonesty. Also familiarize yourself with the Aggie Honor System office, as if you do ever have that situation where you need to talk about academic misconduct, they are going to be your resource and experts on how to move forward with any sanctions or rules and procedures or anything that looks like. From there. And then their website is going to be, let's go to it together really quickly. If I Google it, there it is, aggieHonor.tamu.edu is going to be our website for our Aggie Honor System office. If you ever have any questions, they have a lot of different resources and FAQs that you can refer to as well. That is all I have for Turnitin today. I know it was very short, very fast. If you have any questions within Turnitin and how to use it in your course, maybe you have a very specific case you want to talk about, please join us for office hours. Other trainings that we have is like our Office 365, Gradescope and Canvas, which is very similar. It is a Turnitin product that you may choose to use for delivering feedback. And then Google Drive.